Khalid Lalam. Chimaev's first 2 seconds into his career and he already screams at his opponent. And in very Chimaev fashion, he goes straight for a combination into a takedown. He did start wrestling at the age of 5, but also knowing Chimaev, at the age of 5, he was also screaming and submitting people very fast too. Chimaev managed to move around and nearly get the opponent's back. Khalid is actually pretty good defensively. He actually knows what to do as an amateur. But as soon as I say that, Chimaev just picked him up and threw him back to square one. And all of round 1 was a dominant performance by Khamzat. Now that it's round 2, you know Khalid is scared of the takedown, which leads to the early finish. Wait, I lied. The opponent does well on the ground and the ref lets them up. And then he does the most stupid thing possible. Not sure why he did that. Walked right into that Das choke and thus began the career of Khamzat Chimaev. Derjal Gilbert. Unfortunately, there is no footage or even pictures of this fight and we just gotta take the stats for validation. Chimaev won via guillotine in the second round. Most likely another dominant performance. Adnan Music. We are now into Chimaev's third and final amateur career match and he fights Adnan Music. And again, unfortunately, there is no footage on this as well. Chimaev won in the first minute via TKO, his first striking finish, and we missed it. Tragic. Guard Olive Sagan. This is Chimaev's first debut professional fight and this is the only footage I can find. It's a 20-second clip and he won via TKO in the first 5 seconds of round 2. Non-full beard Chimaev is definitely one of the most cursed things to look at. Ole Magnor. Chimaev comes in again, just easily picking up his opponent and going for the takedown. The unexpected thing here is that the opponent nearly found a counter quick.
Ole går på en knee bar. Ska vi se?
Yeah, I don't speak that language, but it looked like he wanted to do a knee bar.
Oh, tunga slag. Men Ole satsar på den här.
It didn't work, but you know what? This is actually highlights right now. After 99% of ground control, it looked like Chimaev was the one that got bored and wanted to end it. The opponent nearly punched the mouthguard out of Chimaev, and Chimaev basically said, yeah, let's just finish it.
Khamzat tar sin tid så. Oj, den här sitter. Det är godnatt. Och ska vi se. Ole krigar på. Jag tror han är ute där. Ja, han svimmat. Klappar inte.
Not sure if that was a grasping attempt at tap before he's out or he wanted to punch Chimaev. Oh well, he's dead regardless. Marko Kissick. I'm not risking this and making sure this is 100% non-copyrighted. But it is also convenient at the same time because the next few fights end so quick. The Brave Fighting promotion has been going around UFC Fight Pass, so I'm not liking those odds for copyright. Marko is actually undefeated as well with 4 wins and no losses. The fight starts with them just brawling it out for some reason. It goes so hard the commentators don't even know what to say.
Whoa! These guys are fighting like they've got somewhere to be! Whoa! Oh!
Exactly. The fight continues with Chimaev controlling the ground and after a few minutes got the win. The opponent tried to leg lock and during the sub attempt he didn't protect his face, so Chimaev just pounded it and won. Easy as that. Makes undefeated fighters look so easy. Sydney Wheeler. Khamzat fights his first American fighter and you won't believe the venue location. Yes, India. This fight doesn't last long at all for me to even talk about Wheeler. Weird tension I created, but that's only because he fake glove touched Chimaev. So that's why Chimaev does not do it anymore, I presume. He gets a 1-2 in and realizes his mistake. Khamzat just takes half his back and controls it with ground punches.
Those are huge strikes! Oh! That bell
Yes, the ground strikes were so strong, Wheeler needed to tap out. Ikram Aliskerov. Chimaev, coming in at 4-0 now, fights another undefeated fighter, Ikram. Yes, people in the community, I will talk a bit about him soon. Ikram was 8-0 at the time of this fight and looks like he might be the winner of this one. Or at the very least, give Chimaev some problems compared to the previous cans.
Somebody's getting knocked out in this fight. I don't see this fight going to a decision. Might have thrown the commentator's curse on it there. I hope not.
I want to know who that commentator is. How does he know? Chimaev starts off in southpaw, surprisingly, but then goes back to orthodox. I think he was baiting the rear leg of Ikram so he can easily snatch a single leg. But that's just what I think though. Just one exchange later, Chimaev drops Ikram with a single jab. It was a full knockdown. This is where Chimaev opens his domain and just dominates the rest of the fight. Ikram does well actually, having defending most of the transitions where Chimaev needs to step up the game a little. But ultimately, Ikram drained too much energy getting out of the grappling and looks so off now. Too focused on the takedowns, he didn't notice the uppercut.
Khamzat,
that is insane. KO power was just the last thing God needed to give Chimaev. But let's dive into Ikram for a bit. This was his only loss and he's actually a really good fighter. It's similar to Islam being the pound for pound #1 fighter despite his KO only loss. Ikram later dominated the Brave FC promotion after this fight and ended up in Dana White's Contender Series. After that, he officially debuted in 2023 with 2 finishes. He plans to have his 3rd official UFC fight in June 2024 and will most likely win and climb up the middleweight rankings. We might actually see a rematch with him and Chimaev in the future if and when Chimaev might be middleweight champion. Mizwandile Hilongwa. Chimaev fights another undefeated fighter with a record of 4-0. As soon as the bell rang, Chimaev went for the body kick and went for the single leg straight after, and then slams him into half guard just like that. Chimaev tries his best to maneuver around, but also doesn't seem too desperate to finish quickly too. The round was 5 minutes, and 4 minutes and 40 seconds of it was Chimaev control time. Round 2 begins, and Chimaev begins his signature move. He picks up his opponent and travels him to his own corner for the slam. It looks so jarring seeing the coach so close. It must be hell for the opponent, but also awkward as fuck. The opponent tries to stand up, but Chimaev reverses into a choke and gets it done. Submission by Bravo choke. Sadly, even though Hilongwa had an impressive record at the time, he currently hasn't left the local scene and is now 6 wins and 4 losses. John Phillips. I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be the most cursed thing you're gonna hear and see in your life. What I'm going to do is use the exact same voice recording I spoke in the last fight and apply it to Chimaev's UFC debut. Just watch and listen. As soon as the bell rang, Chimaev went for the body kick and went for the single leg straight after, and then slams him into half guard just like that. Chimaev tries his best to maneuver around, but also doesn't seem too desperate to finish quickly too. The round was 5 minutes, and 4 minutes and 40 seconds of it was Chimaev control time. Round 2 begins, and Chimaev begins his signature move. He picks up his opponent and travels him to his own corner for the slam. It looks so jarring seeing the coach so close. It must be hell for the opponent, but also awkward as fuck. The opponent tries to stand up, but Chimaev reverses into a choke and gets it done. Submission by Bravo choke. That was freaky. Someone hasn't been studying the other fighter during camp. The only difference is that the other fight ended in round 2, 1 minute and 15 seconds. And this one was round 2, 1 minute and 12 seconds. So everything was exactly the same except for the opponent and a 3-second difference. Rhys McKee. Chimaev coming in as a -1200 favorite against his opponent. I'm just going to make this entry as long as the fight. Chimaev does the same tactic and gets it done. I feel like studying and actually executing the game plan is 2 different things. McKee knows it's coming, but what can he do about it? Chimaev is once again transitioning to more and more dominant positions where McKee doesn't know what's going on anymore. Chimaev just kept raining strikes and the ref knew McKee was out of it, so it was a TKO win. Also, fun fact, the time gap between this fight and the previous one was just 10 days. Yes, it was the UFC world record of the quickest turnaround between wins in the modern era. 10 days. Performance of the night as well. Gerald Meerschaert. Chimaev actually had a different game plan coming into this one. He probably knew Gerald was waiting for that immediate takedown, so he just went for the punch and there you go. Li Jinglang. This is another quick fight. You can understand the Chimaev hype train during this era, where we could see someone in Conor McGregor levels of hype. He fights Li Jingliang, who does his own scream in his intro too. If only the fight was actually that intense. As soon as the fight starts, Chimaev goes for a takedown and the leech misses with his straight punch. After that, he picks Lee up and walks up to Dana and then slams him. After just subtly making his way to the back, he gets it done with a rear naked choke.
He's dead. Stop the fight! Hey! Easy! He's out! He's out!
Respect to the leech for not tapping out. Gilbert Burns.
What? Can't understand. Where's the translator?
I'm gonna kill this guy tomorrow. I'm gonna smash him.
Come on, bro.
That guy cry all these fights. You know, when he lose the fights, he cry. He lose to my coach 3 times. He cry after the fight. You know, they're gonna do the same thing again.
Translator, please.
Now we're reaching the good stuff because there is crowd cam footage for me to dive into and not just pictures. For the first time ever, Chimaev doesn't dominate the first 10 seconds. It's actually worse. He gets hurt in the first 10 seconds. He manages to clinch, but Burns definitely stuffed the full takedown. Burns manages to deny some deadly positions and then tries to collect his thoughts. I can't think of another reason why he wants to lay down while Chimaev is standing. I mean, he can pull guard and do some jiu-jitsu going, but nah. With 1 minute left of the first round, they keep playing on the feet. Chimaev gets a strong cheeky jab in and it knocks Burns down. I'm not sure. I think besides Chimaev's great power, there is also the variable of Burns having a weakness against jabs. And of course, the beautiful taunt. I don't know why, I'm definitely not complaining, but most of the second round was just boxing. And Gilbert goes for the takedown. If you see closely, you can see Chimaev wanting to finish it with a Das Barbo choke, just like he did with many other submission wins. Burns said fuck that and kicked him off the ground. That definitely got the crowd going. And at the end of the round, it looked like Gilbert nearly got the TKO win. It looked like some sort of check overhand and then another hook with a lot of pushing force that sent Chimaev down. Chimaev manages to survive with a takedown just there. It looks like the happy ending of Alex versus Yeri if Yeri got the takedown after the left hook. There is just so many highlights in this fight, I don't even know if I can cover everything. Most of the third round was very careful from both sides, knowing it's the most riskiest round. Nothing happens until the final minute where they have a stand-up battle. I would say Chimaev won rounds 1 and 3 easily, and he won by unanimous decision. Definitely a giant step for him, but it worked out in the end. Kevin Holland. Now to totally contrast the hype entirely with the Holland fight. The UFC basically established Chimaev as a top fighter and now scheduled him to defend his ranking against Nate Diaz. Of course, it was just a retirement fight for Diaz, but there were some miscalculations. Chimaev came in extremely over the weight limit, which made fans really hate him, and now he is doing a last-minute catchweight fight with Kevin Holland. That's basically the sum of it, and the reason why Chimaev is suddenly now booed in his intro. Chimaev doesn't accept the glove touch during the fight because he already did it in the intro and goes for the takedown. Holland does well scrambling and trying not to die, but it ultimately fails. And just like that, round 1 Bravo choke once again. And with that, Chimaev moves up a weight class and makes his middleweight debut. Kamaru Usman. Here comes Chimaev's most recent fight against Usman. It doesn't feel real considering this fight should happen, but not how we visioned it years ago. If you told me this fight was going to happen years ago, I would have thought it was Chimaev fighting for the welterweight bout against Usman. But in reality, we get last-minute Usman's middleweight debut replacing Costa, and Chimaev's real debut going for the middleweight bout. Sad reality we live in. The fight starts and Chimaev does his usual roundhouse kicks at the start, then springs into a takedown and gets it done. Usman, who is proficient in wrestling, still has trouble against this guy. Literally 1 minute into the round, Chimaev has back mount and raining punches on Usman's head. Usman tries to get up for a few minutes, but Chimaev backpacks him and goes for a choke. As the rear naked choke sinks in, Usman went for the spike. It was risky as shit, but my god did it work. Chimaev still dominates and the round ends. That's a definite 10-8 round if I ever saw one. Sadly, the crowd cam footage ends at the first round and I gotta end it there. Not anything too crazy happened for the rest of the fight. Usman crept his way up and slowly got his momentum into the fight. As the fight progressed, Chimaev got more sloppy and more tired. It really stinks it wasn't a 5-round fight and even Usman regrets it. He even said the UFC offered him to make the fight 5 rounds, but he declined because it was so short notice and he didn't really believe himself. And also he's a lot heavier. There was some good stand-up exchanges where Chimaev got a bit rocked, but that was it. Chimaev wins and becomes a ranked middleweight fighter. And in conclusion, Chimaev is set to fight Robert Whittaker soon, an actual middleweight and actual top contender, so that will be interesting. This video will be a lot longer where I spice in some current events surrounding Chimaev outside fighting, but the community has done that quite well already. I've done my job just explaining the fights and now I'm going to bed.